All right, guys, we're going to continue here in Chapter 3. So now we're talking about solving inequalities using multiplication and division. So we got a couple concepts here. You want to make sure that you pause and copy these down. So let's take a look at this first part here. It says, let A, B, and C be real numbers with C being greater than 0. That's another way of saying that C is a positive number. Okay, so when C is a positive number, then this remains true. If A is greater than B, then the product of AC is greater than the product of BC. Okay, or if A is less than B, AC is less than BC. And we could see that happen here where if I start out with negative 2 is less than 3, we all would agree that this value right here is true. Negative 2 is to the left of 3 on the number line. If I multiply both of these things by the same value, this 2, which is positive, then that moves this negative 2 to the left, it moves this positive 3 to the right, and it stays a true statement. It is still less than. But here's the part that is kind of one of those things that you just have to memorize. You just have to know that this is the case. It says ABC real numbers, C is less than 0. That means when C is a negative number, then something happens. It says here A is greater than B. Then A times C is now less than B times C. It switches this. This was greater than, it is now less than. If I come down here, A is less than B, then the product of AC is greater than BC. So just like up here, it switches that sign. It was less than, now it is greater than. Let's see how this plays out with actual numbers. So 3 is greater than 1. It's a larger number. There it is. If I multiply both of these by negative 2, they switch their order on the number line. Okay, so the 3 comes back here to negative 6, the 1 comes back here to the negative 2, and negative 6 is less than negative 2. It switches this sign. Okay, so and notice it says the property is also true for greater than or equal to or less than or equal to. So how does this actually play out in algebra? Well, let's take a look here. It says find and graph the solutions. This first one I have x divided by 3, so I would multiply both sides by 3. These things cancel, and I'm left with x is less than negative 6. You are asked to graph it, so I have negative 6. We talked about this in the last video. Just make sure that you are going in the right direction. And then I have negative 7, and I have a negative 8. It is an open circle, and it goes this direction. Also, make sure that you are coloring this in on the number line itself. So, x is less than negative 6. I want you to notice something here, though. This 2 is a negative 2. All right, and something that I'll see students do often is they'll just see a negative number and think, well, it's in multiplication, there's a negative involved, so I switch the sign. It only matters for the number that you are multiplying both sides by. So yes, the 2 is negative, but I'm multiplying both sides by a positive 3. So because that number is positive, it doesn't matter the sign of this number. Because this is positive, my sign will stay the same. Come over here, it's negative 3/4. Hopefully remember, in order to undo that, we'll multiply by the reciprocal. So that's going to be negative 4/3. These things all cancel out. You are left with x. And then because I'm multiplying both sides by a negative, I switch this sign. It is now less than or equal to. My 3's would cancel. X is less than or equal to negative 4. And when I graph that, it's going to look something like that. So I'm negative 4, negative 3, negative 2, negative 5, negative 6. It is a closed circle because of the underline there, and it's going in this direction. All right, so everything that you would do for an equation is exactly the same. The big difference here is paying attention to whether or not you are multiplying by a negative number. So if you are multiplying by a negative number, make sure you switch that sign. Okay, the division property of inequality, you don't need to really copy this down because it's exactly the same thing. In fact, you could go back a couple slides ago and we just add division to it. But notice what's saying, C is greater than 0. Well, that's all the positive numbers. When the positive numbers are the ones that are being divided, it doesn't change the sign. I have greater than, A is greater than B, and then when I divide both of them by a positive C, it stays greater than. Down here, numbers that are less than 0 are my negative numbers. And notice it switches. So A is greater than B. If I divide A and B both by a negative C, it is now a less than sign. So it changes things. And there's some numerical examples over here if you want to take a look at those. Let's see how this actually plays out in algebra. So here I have 4.5D is greater than or equal to 75, so I would divide both sides by 4.5. These would cancel, and D is greater than or equal to, let me check here, 16 6/10 repeating. Okay, so find and graph the solutions. This one, you got to be a little bit careful here. So I'd have 16, 17, 18. Over here we'll have a 15 and a 14 just for fun. 6.6, same thing as 16 2/3. So I'm going to go somewhere in here. Make sure it's filled in. Then you'll graph everything on the right. Over here, I'm going to divide by 9, negative 9, divide by negative 9. These cancel. I'm left with y. Switch the sign because that 9 is negative, so it is now greater than negative 7. So I go and I graph my solution. -8, -9. It is a closed circle. And it is also going off here to the right. Okay, so hopefully you understand that. I didn't have any U tries on this because I don't think this is too difficult of a concept, and it's hopefully something that's not new to you, and I wanted to move you through the video here pretty quickly. I believe that's it for today. Yep, so I will see you in class. Make sure that you're taking good notes. So long.